Yeah, look, it's still grey as shit, but it's meant to fine up a little bit this afternoon, so we'll go up around Blackheath and the Shipley Plateau and see what we can see up there. Go to some cool spots, and then we might have a look at some stones a bit later, man.
I heard your arm is a little bit sore.
Yeah, my bicep's a bit funny just after doing Atlas stones yesterday, so we'll probably take it a bit easy on the stones today, but never say never.
What weight did you hit your arm on?
Only 142.
Ah,
It was only a baby one, yeah. It was during warm-ups.
that's my PR.
I did 200 a week ago, and it was fine. Yeah, I was sort of really attacking the stones yesterday in warm-ups, just trying to get some speed back in the movements and the transitions. And yeah, just on one of the reps, I just tweaked it a little bit, so I'll just be a bit careful with that in a minute. See how we go. That large dome mountain over there is Mount Hay, and we were at the foot of that. So the next little rise next to it is where Butterbox was, and we can see it. You probably won't see it on the footage, but directly behind it in the distance is Sydney.
Yeah, definitely can't see it on the film.
You will struggle, but yeah. So it's a straight line towards the city right from here, but yeah, that's the Gross Valley right there, and that's where we were. So we're on like some pretty fucking precipitous cliffs, man. Though, but that's why it's such a cool spot. If I can film my low points. I'm not feeling agile today. Or ever. Last time, round one during Crete. Fuck, how cool is this? We can do something with that.
Climb it.
Fuck, I meant like image-wise.
Oh, yep, I'm about to die.
Cool. Let me get it on video. You alright? No, I'm about to die.
I'm literally about to die.
Are you alright?
Nope.
Can I help?
Probably not.
Do you need my assistance?
It's alright. I've died before.
Let me get a selfie if you don't. Fuck, man.
Oh god. I was terrified for a second. I don't know if you could see it in my eyes.
I could kind of hear it.
I definitely was way too blasé about that. It's still wet.
Yeah, man. I think you're underestimating this situation. You should do something really easy, like climb the end of it.
Yeah, not the side that goes into jagged rocks.
Where are we here? Again, I'm wearing the completely wrong fucking shoe. Alright, this has potential.
Luke, the Blue Mountain Goat Reynolds.
We're just like filming each other. Like fucking idiots. I fall off backwards and you go
forwards. The great thing about being here and not having to work straight after is that we can actually just sit and soak it all in. Whereas last time we were kind of on the clock.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. You touched the stone.
These are my stones that I've collected.
This is Andy's hangout.
This is Luke's. What I'm most proud of you is not breaking it this time.
Damn it!
Never mind.
They're quite chunky fuckers.
One of the biggest regrets I had from last video was not actually lifting that many stones.
Yeah, well now we've just lifted a bunch of dumb ones that aren't really anything.
That's true.
Nah, we'll go somewhere shortly and look at some stones. These are weird, like the breakdown of, like, look around us, there's like rubble everywhere. I don't know why there's like piles of rubble here that's made it all just fall into little pieces. As opposed to just wearing down into sand like the rest of the shit around here. And it's like partially sandstone, partially that ironstone, flowstone, igneous rock that we were looking at last time. These ones seem to be more intact than the stuff across the valley that we were at last time though, don't they?
Yeah.
Like an actual solid stone versus
the composite.
that weird conglomerate sort of flowstone shit. These are cool. I mean, you can, like we've just done, you can lift these for sure. I mean, they break quite easily because I think they have natural faults and things through them, but
and they're essentially sand.
Effectively, yeah. But you know, these are reasonable blocks of stone here. Probably more like a pressing stone than a fuck off. Oh, there's a creature trying to kill me. I mean, they're certainly not light. They seem to be denser than they should be. I think, yeah. The thing with porous stone though is it can take on huge amounts of water. So it can probably shift by like up to 10%. So if you've got a 100 kilo stone, it can take on, you know, another 10 kilos. That's a reasonable amount in water.
So something that Luke mentioned to me earlier was that the flat ones tend to be better for pressing. Would you say that?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, just because, well, you can press anything, and in Norway we often do quite round ones, but here you've got the luxury of the flatter stones, so they're almost like doing an actual block press, which is often, you know, something made of metal. But
see, this one's quite light.
Yeah, because it's pretty thin and flat, but the other one was quite thick.
But
still quite a nice looking stone though.
But I think this one's really cool for the puzzle aspect of it.
Oh, big time.
You know, like
if it was a heavier stone, it would actually be quite tricky to work out, because look at the multiple directions sort of the weight will pull.
Yeah. But it is actually, this is probably a really good beginner stone because of how many grips it has, how light it is.
It's got a big bulge there that sort of like will pull a certain direction. The weight distribution is going to be different.
But it's, you know, yeah, it's not too heavy. It's a great stone.
I agree. Yeah, no, it's actually quite cool.
And we will call you the anti-stone. Probably don't want to kill the wildlife, just put it down.
It's pretty tough. All that bushfiery desolation and regeneration going on. This is gross. Look at Andy struggling away with a cracking stone here, actually. Yeah, hard. Good man. Nice.
Oh, that one was a bit heavier.
All right, hit it again. That was cracking. Yeah. Good tech. There you go. Nicely back to the ground. Love it.
So we've just stumbled into like, I don't know, like a grove that looks like it's almost man-made in how beautifully put together it is. And
that perfectly random but beautifully ordered thing that nature does, right?
yes.
Like these stones here look like they've actually been placed in some sort of rockery formation, but it's just purely random and fucking outstanding. That's a cool observation, man, actually. It's like somebody, this is their grasses section.
Have you thought about doing something like this in your cave?
Yeah, it might be a bit easier on the feet, hey? Like,
Looks like this was a river once.
it does. It looks like there was a structure here once. There wasn't, but it looks like it. What's this? This has potential. So does that. So does that. Sexy. Let's see if there's a black snake having a sleep under here.
Very nice.
Lovely.
How'd that feel?
Yeah, good.
How'd the bicep feel?
Bicep feels good.
Probably
But
could've
again,
rolled
not
up
that
on the other
explosive
one.
movement. Just nice and controlled. Behave yourself.
Well, talk about that, because that's like, there's a certain respect that you show natural stones that you may not always show Atlas stones when you're lifting them.
Well, depends on the weight. And it's easy, and I almost made that mistake yesterday. It's easy to get blasé sometimes with the Atlas stones because, like we've discussed, they are almost always uniformly distributed. The weight, they're almost identical. The only thing that shifts is some of the surface and some of the diameter. But the thing with Atlas stones is sometimes the idea is that it's for speed. Like an Atlas stone run is done for time. And you got to be quick. So you attack the stones, and because they're uniform, you can just launch at them, grab them. Either, you know, someone like Jordan was very good at, or he's very good at the one motioning sort of thing, especially on lighter stones, which gave him blistering times. Excuse me. If you don't like that technique, the alternative is a quick pull to the lap, a really fast transition, which I tend to do, and some people don't like that, but a quick rollover in the lap into a fast extension can be just as quick as a reasonable speed one motion if you know what you're doing. The problem is if you're that explosive movement, and even on natural stone, is how I originally tore my bicep the first time in Norway, was a really explosive pull on only a 100 kilo stone. I'd been lifting over 200 kilo Atlas stones, my bicep was fine. As soon as I went with a really fast explosive pull into the lap, really loaded the biceps up and it just tore. Natural stones, when you approach them, the reason I'm less likely to just launch at them and fucking pull in explosively in, say, a natural setting like this, is because I don't know what their fucking weight distribution's like. I don't know if they're gonna, like, you pull that one up there, right, for instance, the one I just lifted. It looks reasonably well distributed. It's kind of roundish, but underneath, I don't know, it might be a fucking iceberg. It could have some big chunk hanging off. It could, for starters, this part here's thin. So if I get too aggressive on that, it may snap off. And then that big discharge of energy, you can tear a bicep doing that for sure. Underneath, I checked it to make sure it was reasonably distributed, but you never know until you've had to play with these stones. So
I guess you have no idea what it even weighs, right?
Oh, 100%. It's just like, oh, you know, that's about that big. As an Atlas stone, it's probably about 80 kilos. Depends what it's made of, though, because there's not concrete here. Concrete and, for a stone, and sandstone, I think, generally have a similar density, okay? But there's a lot denser stones than that out there in the wild than we lift in, so a much smaller stone, like we've discussed in the past, can be way heavier than it appears.
Something like granite or...
Yeah, granite, your igneous rocks like basalts and your volcanic stuff, like those tend to be a lot fucking denser. Something quartz or something, ironstone, those things, they're going to be...
Something that's almost like crystal.
Yeah, they're going to be dense as hell. It's like fucking dark matter. You're trying to bloody, you know, so...
That was great. That should be within my grasp.
Yeah, you can lift this, mate.
Okay, I think it's important to note that Luke is very strong. So if I make this look harder, this is giving you like a regular person's idea of what these things feel like. And Luke is giving you like a superhero's idea of what these things look
just
like.
before Andy lifts, I don't know if you're going to be able to see me, but Andy's very modest. He's actually a very high-level weightlifter and a strongman in his own right. So let's see how he does.
Oh, it's weird. This is so much easier to grip on this side, and then all of the weight just wants to go that way. Exactly what you just said.
Yeah, 100%, man. There you go. Nice. Oh, you're going to go into a press. That's cheeky. Dude, that would have been immense if you pressed that.
I know. I started getting dizzy. So the downside of lifting stones is that you get boo-boos. You just gone down to a 3-day program?
Yeah, so...
You finished a volume block, which was lots of 10 by 10.
Yeah, my favourite was like German volume. Yeah, it was hypertrophy, and it was... So we'd done a 6-week block. like a mini strength peak, if you like. And on week 5 is when I went down to Beechworth and then hurt my hamstring. So I was then put back onto a month of basically hypertrophy / rehab, but that meant lower loads, but a lot of volume, which I quite enjoyed. That high volume work is actually building a much bigger motor under me.
Yeah.
Which I'm really enjoying, and it fucking sucks to do at the time, but that coupled with coming out here like we are now and doing hikes and a lot of sort of general health and conditioning, I'm feeling a lot better overall and a lot more, I suppose the word might be athletic. Like I'm feeling fitter, I'm feeling more nimble, I'm moving better, and I definitely know that's going to carry across. But so yeah, now we've moved into a 10-week sort of strength block, just starting yesterday, and building up towards, god damn, there's always random people. Building up to some high numbers towards the end of that. So because the workloads are so high on the actual training days, it's only a 3-day week program.
And then what we were talking about off camera is that built into the program is just like a lot more room for doing stuff like what we're doing today.
Yeah, that's it. So, well, it just frees up my time to do that, which at the moment I kind of have a fair bit of time to do that anyway. But yeah, it's sort of allowed that complementary conditioning, and for me mentally it's really good anyway, because as we know, I like coming out and doing these sort of things. But yeah, getting more of that sort of general conditioning work via short hikes and walks and that kind of thing is really good active recovery, if you like, in between anyway.
And I think last time we talked about, the use of going out on hikes and stuff just for like active recovery.
Yeah.
But the part we touched on earlier while we were hiking was there's a certain aspect of like taking information in.
Yeah.
When you're walking around without,
Well,
music.
a lot of people, like we sort of discussed, was a lot of people probably don't see a lot of value in it and sort of thing, because you and I weren't, the view we could see was insane, but where we were itself wasn't an overly descript location. It was fairly sort of barren. There was a few stones around, and that's a loading zone, and a few small shrubs like we discussed. It was sort of like a little planned garden almost, because it wasn't really thick bush or anything. So it was like, a lot of people might look at that and this is just conjecture, but a lot of people might look at that and say, well, why you, because we probably spent an hour there just wandering around, and having a good old look and explore and
yarn.
A lot of people might, and a yarn, and a lot of people might not derive much value from that, but it's like, while you're there, if you're open to it, you're really soaking in a lot of information. You're sort of considering what's around you, what's underfoot, why is that underfoot, why is that all sand there, what was here before, what broke down to become sand. The bushfire's been through there, so you're looking at the shrubs and shit, and they're all burnt and crispy, but you're looking at the regeneration. So children are sponges like that. Literally everything they do is information overload, and they just soak it all in.
That's why they're like, why?
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know, for some reason a lot of people, they get to a certain point as an adult and they just sort of shut that off and don't keep questioning or don't keep pondering or considering. It's like, heaven's all around us if we're looking is sort of the line out of a song. And it's like, there's so much information for us still to take in as adults if you just open your eyes and have a look. It's amazing.
And I guess on the other end, if you're purely just like thinking of it from an athletic point of view, taking in all that information and then evaluating it and then using it as well. So like, for example, there are rocks underfoot. How do I step underfoot? You're developing new motor patterns for life, right?
Yeah, and how is that different to how children learn? It's exactly the same thing. Like, every time they step on something is literally the first time they've done it.
How many times have you hit like a divot when you're carrying a, over 400 kilo yoke?
Yeah, it happens. Because events, like, say it's on concrete, you often won't come up against that kind of thing, but you will do comps that are on grass or some other unknown shitty surface. Like, I've done comps on gravel, and just because that's the location you had available. And so yeah, I mean, I suppose, what are we talking about here? We're like talking about developing
Athleticism.
But your kinesthetic sense comes into play there, keeping you balanced on uneven surfaces without even having to look at them, and just it does work towards your overall athleticism, doesn't it? Excuse me.
I did have one last thing before we go, because we're getting a coffee now. And so
yeah.
we're just sitting in the car like weirdos talking. But you've been sumo deadlifting recently.
Yeah.
How does it feel to finally be a cheater?
Well, that was like a one-off thing, but it was, you know what? Even Dan from Adonis, he came up to me, I ran into him at the footy, he's like, dude, your sumo tech's like amazing for someone who's never done it. I'm like, dude, I know, I'm pretty much a powerlifter now, like, fuck. But, yeah, no, that was funny, because that was something Mike Jones, he was watching me deadlift on the Monday, he's like, come in on Thursday and deadlift with me. I'm like, yep, let's do it. He goes, you're having issues with your lockout. I'm like, I am. Glutes and quads, I'm trying to slam them out at the same time and then stop that horrible lean back and bent kneed finish that I have. Jesus, excuse
Something
me.
that's actually pretty good for stones.
Yeah, 100%. And he was like, let's work together and do some sumos, because he's having some pelvic tilt issues and having issues with the top of his lockout as well. Slightly different reasons, but the remedy to sort of dealing with that was going to be the same. And it was something I'd never really thought about with the sumo stuff, but I jumped in and just let Mike take control, and in a single session we worked up to, I think we both worked up to a double on 260, because we wanted to work up to the point where we were still pulling fast but we were starting to have technical breakdown, and that was about the point we both got to, because neither of us have ever been sumo pullers. But it was the point where we had...
This is Mike Jones, the Gov. He is known for having a strong deadlift. Yeah,
big time. And he's always had a more impressive deadlift than I, and when he started talking, and it was nice, because I don't often train around other pros and things, obviously, because there's not a lot of guys at that level around. So it was nice to have, and I sort of returned the favour, but have someone of that calibre cast their eye over my technique in person, and sort of it helped me mentally click onto what I'd been trying to achieve for a fucking long time with fixing that deadlift top position. And yeah, it was amazing. I was like, holy shit, I didn't think I'd ever sumo, but as soon as I did it, I went, wow, this is what I've been trying to achieve the whole time. So yeah, they definitely have a place, I think, in the repertoire. Not necessarily all the time, but definitely as a rejig for that movement pattern.
Well, that's another way of just exploring new options for movement, right?
Oh, massively.
Like something that you've done a lot and something that you can load a lot still, but it's just different.
See, yeah, exactly. The thing, and like Mike said, Mike's the same because his back's immense. The problem with as strongman is our back is usually overwhelmingly strong, even in comparison to our legs sometimes. And if you've got poor form on a deadlift, you can push into a shitty movement pattern, and the strength of your back will actually allow you to get through it anyway. But in the long term, when you're really trying to push that deadlift up, those small factors will then come into play and become roadblocks. And if you ignore them for too long, which I suppose I'm guilty of, or maybe not even having identified them, no, I think it's definitely going to open up. Some new movements there for me, some new improvements rather.
Do you reckon you'll do much in the new cycle? Sumo?
Probably not.
Okay.
But I think it's been a watershed moment for me mentally, understanding the movement pattern better.
So
and
like
I think that was the value from the session.
That one session made something like that. That I guess like
the penny dropped completely. Exactly. It was just like as soon as I started, because you can't use a really strong lower and upper back to get out of trouble in a sumo deadlift, because it's all down on your legs and hips. So when I was coming up, I couldn't just RDL my way out of it. I had to actually do the movement pattern correctly, and the lockout position at the top with the squeezed glutes and the locked out quads to achieve the proper lockout. As soon as I did it, as soon as we got to about 180 kilos, it just snapped in my head, and my glutes and quads were firing, like I could really feel them working, which I often don't in deadlifts. And I'm like, fuck, that was the light bulb moment. I'm like, that's what I've been trying to fucking achieve. And it was the same for Mike. So that was actually a really worthwhile, cool off-program session. So yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was quite cool. So